in the office. I think it's Okay, welcome. Let's call the July 24th, 2024 regular council meeting to order. For roll call, I'd like to say that Councilman Hardy, Councilman Budrias, and Councilwoman Meats are here, and Councilwoman Moritz is not going to make it tonight, absent, excused. And Councilman Gavin Wagner will try to make it here if he can get out of the combine soon enough. We have no visitors in the gallery. Move to Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Whipping through this agenda. Public comments? None. Okay, any additions to the agenda?
I have a brief one. It's a business. I had a citizen come up and he's interested in a business proposition or asking something of the city.
Okay.
So,
And I want to talk about sensors
With an S or a C?
with an S. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. I'm gonna go through a well 3 update just because I know there are people that are gonna be listening in and wanna hear what's going on. Since the last council meeting, the well was actually in the ground by the last council meeting. We were currently at that point getting the line sanitized. Thursday, they purged all the sanitation out of the line, and then we got a fresh sample from the well to be tested for any bacteria. Friday morning, that came back okay. The contractor was not available that day to bring it online, so we went ahead and removed the restrictions on watering that day. And the next morning, we got that thing fired up and it went to town. Checking in on it periodically, everything's been running fine until Friday evening when one of our public works guys went in and checked it and found that the electrical box was exceptionally hot. So contractor came out that evening and with a lot of caution, we actually took well 3 back offline because we weren't sure that the electrics weren't going to cause problems. We switched back to well 1. At that point, the reservoir was full, so it wasn't telling it to turn on, so we went about our business. Sometime overnight, the reservoir ran out of water because the amount of water produced out of well 1 at that point was negligible, if much at all. So we had reports of lots of air bubbles and pockets in the line. The good news is we never lost positive pressure. We always had water in the system. When I checked on it, when I found out about it, I was there. We were down to 70 pounds. Normally we run about 80. 60 is when pretty much the city's dry. With that in mind, Saturday we went ahead and switched back to well number 3, and I had with me, hoping I wasn't going to use them, but Friday night kind of scared me and I was in town, so I picked up a air conditioning unit and a couple more fans to get it cool in there. So on Saturday, we actually got those installed, and they worked famously. They knocked down the temperature of the electrical box when it was running at full song, in the 160-degree weather, I think we were down to like 83 degrees or something like that on the box. So
Yes, but that was after Homie had come and fixed an installation issue.
that's true. That Friday night he'd done, and he'd kind of cleaned up a couple of things and found a couple of loose wires and got them tightened up. And anyway, it was a risk putting 3 back online, but the alternative was to have no water in the city at all. So today they came out, and the contractor came out with a Vista. The goal was to replace some of the lines that are running to that building that were still in aluminum and replace them with copper. And I was glad they did, because there were like 2 or 3 different connection points, and all of them were loose with the aluminum. So there was quite a bit of draw just leading up to before our meter. But they fixed all that, and then we put in a new circuit breaker panel, a new soft start controller, and a variable speed module that will be done in the future. So as far as I can tell, at this point, we're looking pretty solid. So that's my water report.
And Dean White tomorrow, right?
Yes, Dean White, I spoke with the contractor. He is supposed to call Dean and coordinate either being here to do it together or outline for him how it's supposed to be done. I got out of the middle of it so that they can do that coordination. And we'll try to get together with Dean in the morning to make sure that our public works guys and everything are
Who's
here
we?
to watch. We, as in, I will get in touch with Dean and try to get that coordinated with our public works people.
I'm just,
Mhm.
I'm not trying to be any way, but Stephen seems to know a lot of this information, but none of the other council does.
He was around, and when this was going down, he was able to come in and do it. And then Steve was actually instrumental in helping me get the AC units in the window.
Quick email to council would be fantastic
Okay.
to keep everybody on board.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Okay. Moving on the agenda, there's a resolution in your paperwork. I don't know if you had a chance to read it. It is basically Inovia's Heart and Soul project that Harrington is trying to get approved for the grant money. That resolution is largely a form that they want to see that's just basically modified for the city. So, any ideas, thoughts, changes, adjustments?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just have a couple of questions, key points. I know Kathy Matthews come in and explain some of it, but that's the last I don't know enough about it. So my questions are, what does this cost the city? And some of the language and verbiage in here, the City of Harrington Leadership Team, what does that consist of? 'Cause
Pretty much anybody who wants to be involved, it's part of city leadership. It could be clerks, it could be council, it could be me.
is this, my only fear is that, be straight up,
So 1 or 2 people could be making decisions and
right.
doing this, or it needs to be a collaborative effort, or
The whole thing, so to go back to what Kathy Matthews presented, it's not supposed to be a 1 or 2 person party that's calling the shots on everything. This is supposed to be, so this is the first part. This is just trying to get qualified to get the grant money that then builds the rest of the program.
so is this a matching grant then?
Nope, it's straight up paid 100% by Inovia. Oh, no, I take it back. There is a $10,000.
And who pays that?
buy-in. Not the city. I don't know who would put up with it, but it would be people within the community.
So okay, to get back, I mean, this is all good, but my issues that I don't want the city to get involved with another pseudo group, you know, like we have the HHPC, we have others around, and this is not like that. It's its own entity that is not going to cause a burden on our staff, or our record keeping, or cost us money.
Correct.
Any of that.
And it is a definitive 3-year program.
So
What it is-
10 grand is a lot of money, so, and she's part of chamber.
So the
So
chamber
is
may be
this-
chipping in, the other organizations, people as individuals may be chipping in. I didn't get into the weeds on
Right.
who would be providing
We
$10,000.
probably need to, because if we're gonna sign off on it, we need to know that they're not gonna come back and say, okay, well, we
Yeah.
still need 7 grand to make this work. And me as a brand new business owner, I can guarantee we don't have it.
So
Is that a one-time fee, a buy-in or something, that 10,000, you know?
the way it was presented, yes, that's just a
That's-
one-time. It's not an annual fee.
I get it if there's 2 grand from 5 different groups or people or what, you know. It's a great program, don't get me wrong, but in the big scheme of things, 10 grand is a lot of money.
Yeah. And if they don't have it, then we don't qualify, or the community. This is not, so this
Okay.
is not a city thing, it's not a chamber thing, it's not anything, it's a community
Yeah, but
effort.
it literally says the desires of the city of Harrington leadership. So that's where,
Has anybody talked to you or anyone outside of Kathy? I mean, from the foundation itself?
Not from the foundation.
No.
and then whereas the city of Harrington values involvement from a broad cross-section of residents and agrees to participate in a final presentation from the Community Heart and Soul team. How are we going to involve, for one, all of our residents for their input? I get that when you do a grant, I understand.
This is a
but
box they have to check off.
I get it.
List of things.
I get it.
Okay. And if they don't have the city sign off, then that's the one that they said, if the city doesn't sign off, the whole
Okay.
program, it's a non-starter.
So after we sign off on this, which I mean,
Reservations?
I do have some reservations, only because have they looked further? Has, Kathy and her group or anybody else looked further into how they're going to address the residents and do all that? Has that been in place?
My understanding is that's part of the coaching and part of the program after it's been approved.
Okay. Fair enough.
So, and
And I'm sorry
and
I'm
the
coming in here
mechanism-
because I wasn't here. So,
Yeah, the mechanism to get there, I don't know. I do know that I sat in on one meeting with a number of people from all crosses, and it was just really, the bottom line was to try to identify who all the different communities and groups and employers and
Right.
spheres of influence and everything were.
I just want to make sure that they have, after determining what matters most to residents, that they have something in place to make that, to do a survey, to make that stuff happen.
Yeah, and my understanding is that's like one of the final steps before it's done, is they'll have, where I think this benefits this body right here, is it tells us, instead of trying to figure out what does the community as a whole really want, we'll have a better understanding of what the community as a whole really wants, instead of just one person or a select number of people saying, the city needs to do this. We get some more buy-in from the whole community that says, yeah, we want to do that, but we feel that this is more important, or maybe it's not. But The one example she got that I thought was great was the community that literally, the council had kind of almost a guidepost of points that when somebody was coming up, that they needed to make a decision, they could base that decision against what the community itself felt was important, what
Right.
their,
Yeah, I get it, but I've said it countless times that, and it didn't cost us anybody 10,000, is that this forum right here, everything we're doing is for the public to give input. And I would, again, encourage everybody to get involved in some shape, where good, bad, or ugly. I mean, that being said, what does, is there a limit to the funds that you can go, that this organization can go to? I mean, is that capped off at
the
a?
way it was presented, it's pretty much a canned program. And I understand that the buy-in is 10,000, but they're putting up, I think, $40,000, and it's going to a coach. It's not buying a product, it's buying coaching that helps the community get through these steps that are needed.
I got the impression it was investigative work.
I think that's part of it, but I heard coaching,
Oh.
lots of coaching.
Okay.
So do we know who that coach is?
They're hired, my understanding is directly from Inovia. I don't think there's any funds necessarily that flow through anybody's checkbook. I think it all goes through
Right.
Inovia directly.
So I understand is that this grant thing, the buy-in is we're in, and they get a bunch, and then they get somebody that's going to come to our meetings and say, here, your citizens want they want a shower up at the park, or stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the restrictions, I guess.
I would hope that I don't necessarily want to be on a committee of leadership of this necessary organization, but I would like to participate in seeing the process. And I would hope that other people would also.
Right, and again, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but we just never really dug into the meat and potatoes of this. And like I said, I'm against, I guess, the subgroups of a council or city government. When I think that right now, yes, the money, but we got a lacking maintenance department. We have challenges ourselves with everything, and I believe we're going to be going for, infrastructure grants and stuff like that. And I don't think this is part of that, right? It's not. Yeah.
Not in any way, shape, or form. This is just something completely separate. This has nothing to do with city operations.
Okay.
The most the city could get involved is they had suggested maybe they needed a meeting place,
Right, like the Memorial Hall or something.
or even in here.
Yeah.
So, from writing grants, I understand that this is just literally a form resolution that needs to be signed for them to do the next step.
Part of this and part of a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. So
So
it's
this
a
is
piece
just
of the-
one piece of the puzzle
Yep.
for them to try to get the funding.
Yeah, and
Right.
yeah, exactly. Because then they have to present it, and then they actually have to be awarded.
Okay.
So just so I'm clear, everybody else, what do you foresee the city obligation that's going forward? How would it obligate us in any way? Negatively, positively? Let's talk about the negative. What are we on the hook for, our citizens,
Well,
or the government here?
and quite honestly, what they were asking for the city to contribute was left open. So if there's anything in here that I freelanced in here, it's that where the last paragraph, there is no financial support. It's office support. If they needed a copier, if they needed an office space, if they needed something scanned, we're all in. But I would never expect our public works people to, be paid to attend something. maybe help set up a picnic table because they're gonna meet in the park or something, you know, something.
And how about the clerk, treasurer, the clerks, or administrative aspect? Do you see any impact on them with this at all?
Actually, no. I
Who
mean,
takes care of the management of the grant if awarded?
Yeah.
Well,
thank you.
again, I'm not certain, but I don't think there's any money that ever leaves Inovia's hand unless it goes to where Inovia wants it to go.
That's
you know,
That's different though. Who would be
Record keeper.
managing, doing the record keeping for the grant? Money coming in, money going out, like the project at the corner that was coming through here. I mean, is that the same type of situation?
no, again, there's, to the best of my knowledge, there is no money, and even if it is going through somebody, it's not going through the city.
Okay.
We
Okay.
just got
So
the
the
town
city
square
doesn't
out of
have
our
to
books.
manage this grant.
No,
So they need to figure that out then.
yes.
And you see no encumbrances on the city whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
Right now that I'm
No,
talking
it's
I
not.
mean,
about.
it's not that the
fact,
city
I am-
couldn't do that, but it's just one
Yeah.
more thing.
Well, and now that I know a little bit more about how this whole thing works, I am hesitant to have any money go through our books, because any money that goes through our books, we're subject to B&O. So just being that pass-through is still costing the city money.
Only if that's water and it's not grant wise. It's not.
I don't know
So-
about that, and
I
I don't
do.
understand the better part of it,
But-
so.
So, is there a timeline to sign this or get it in the?
I believe they're getting close to needing this finished. This is one of the last pieces, and I don't know what all is involved. But I know that I was approached this last week saying, you know, hey, we're getting close. Is this up for conversation?
Right, well, like I said, this is really the first time we've ever dug into it myself. I've ever heard about it. I mean, we talked about it before, but that's as far as it went. And all the nuts and bolts of it. I just don't want to see the city get obligated for something, and I'm a little cautious.
I can assure you, this is not another town square project.
Is there any legal binding aspect to it at all that you're aware of?
No, I don't see us being bound to any part of this,
Because
because it's all pretty vague. It just says that we're willing to participate.
and then, as far as office space, stuff like that, I don't see that as a biggie. That's not a game changer. But, and I'm not, just for the record, I'm not against anybody or progression in the city. But I just don't want to overburden the city government and our citizens at the same time. On a dead end, I mean, who knows? But you'd mentioned that, I know Kathy mentioned of several cities. I didn't write them down, but did you talk to anybody that it's new to everybody, or somebody already experienced this for?
My understanding is a program like this has been in existence for over 10 years and throughout the country. From Kathy's presentation, and I did watch some of the videos that were linked up to this project. So
And I do know that Inovia is a great foundation. Hands down, they've done a lot of great work. But when statements are made, focus on what matters and play the long game, that's pretty broad, and that wording to me shouldn't even be in a resolution. Play the long game. What's the long game? I mean, honestly. But am I supportive? Yes. But there needs to be a lot of follow through from the city's point.
I mean, we have a fiduciary responsibility to
And
protect the
involve
citizens.
everyone.
Yeah.
Make sure, how are they going to do that? If we're signing off on this, I mean, there's some pretty bold statements, involve everyone. How are they going to involve everyone? Those are the things that we need to know and we need to be involved in. whether we can help or, you know,
I guess
but make sure everyone is involved, not just 5 or 6 people. Or just the groups.
Mr. Mayor, do you know anybody in the audience that knows anything about this?
Joe, not to put you on the spot.
If I remember right, you knew of another, this is the Anovia Community Heart and Soul. Was there another organization in Lincoln County, another municipality or another area that was looking at something similar?
Edwell,
Edwell?
yeah. So, and I don't know if they were awarded that or not. I know that they met with Anovia and
Which isn't
was considering
unincorporated.
that, so, and I don't know if they met the parameters or not. I haven't heard that yet, so. I do know that they're a fantastic foundation and I think it'd be a really neat opportunity. However, I don't know, the verbiage of the resolution, but, I'm kind of with Janice that it needs to be very firm and goal-oriented and, yeah,
Yeah.
verbiage that you can actually follow.
Agreed. I just, when they say involve everyone, lately I've been seeing and hearing that there's just a select few people making decisions within our community, and it needs to be broader than that.
And it's, like I said,
Hands
the
down,
best-
period.
yeah,
I have no
yeah.
other discussion about it. We have got to keep things transparent to everybody.
Agreed. Okay.
So then
For them to move forward, I will be in agreement, but they'll be. So,
Okay. Any further discussion on that?
I'm good.
Okay. Next on the agenda is ordinance 514. I mentioned this briefly.
were we voting on this tonight, or?
I didn't hear a motion, so oh,
I know we're down to
No,
council
this one,
members, but
for the, we do.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, do we have any motions?
I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 254-2024 for the Anovia Foundation's Heart and Soul Program.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second.
I just saw it was an action item, so.
Further discussions? Okay, no further discussion?
I guess voting for this, I don't know if this is appropriate time, but as presented with the contingency that this does not interfere with the city operations or government or overburden it in any way, I will support this up to that point. If it is not, if it is revealed that this is something else other than what we've talked about on any part, then I will withdraw it and proceed accordingly. But right now, I do support it if it's not going to encumber the city nucleus and a group wants to do this and it doesn't interfere with the city, then I will support it.
Thank you.
I agree with David's
Thank you.
explanation there.
So, that's the end of my comment.
Okay. If no further comments, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All negative, there's no one else here, so thank you very much. So it'll be 300.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I do have one typo to make on the date. It's July, not June.
Yeah. Good catch.
Okay. Okay. Ordinance 514. Next on the agenda. We spoke briefly about this, or I spoke briefly about this, I think during the mayor's comments.
Mhm.
The The two ordinances in question, well, first off, does anybody have any questions about what we're doing, what I've asked to be done here?
My only question is, I believe it's the one we talked about before, about the powers and the language in the
Correct.
yes.
So I ran this past city council, yeah, not city council, city legal counsel, city attorney. And in his opinion, yes, these two both should be repealed. 181, or I'm sorry, 179, I can't remember which one's which. 179 basically says that if you violate any of the ordinances in Harrington, you're guilty of a misdemeanor.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. First off, it's broad sweeping, and second off, Harrington doesn't charge misdemeanors or felonies. That's up to the county and the state. So, at least in a town like our size. Maybe if you're in Seattle, you can have ordinances that you can go bigger on, but not here. So that was one, just a broad sweeping statement like that creates a problem, quite honestly, with the entire rest of our codes.
Okay. And Mr. Mayor, sorry to interject, but to your best of knowledge, 179, is that, does it address that specifically in its entirety, or is there other stuff in it?
No, that is,
Okay.
yeah, that's
That's
where
what-
this one was easy, is that is the only thing that it addresses,
Okay.
is that one topic.
I support that.
Okay. And then the other one is effectively the same thing, and only thing it did was adopt that, at the time, Harrington adopts the state's basically illegal drug use act. Well, we don't need to adopt it because it's already the state's. It's the state's to charge, it's the state's to prosecute. So having it in our city code creates a conflict that is unnecessary.
Is that something you see that would be valid if you had your own police department, court system? But you're right. I don't know why it was even in there, but it doesn't really matter.
It's probably been in there for 80 years, I don't know.
No,
50 years.
one of them was 1978, the other one was 1985. So it's probably, this
40
was a
plus.
1985-year-old issue. It probably was relevant at the time. But I have a feeling that the state has taken over more control over the misdemeanors and felonies over the past 40 years. So,
And that's who we deal with this, who we go through anyway, so it
yeah.
doesn't matter what we say. I mean, that's the way it is.
As long as we're in guidance with what the county needs us to do,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
who
this-
we pay to police our residents or our little communities, so.
Exactly. So the first one was brought to my attention by our county attorney. Mr. Walzer was the one that they brought to me when we were trying to get this uploaded into Sector. And he's like, going, okay, we got a problem.
Who is the county attorney?
Adam Walzer.
Oh, Adam,
The
okay,
prosecuting
that's right,
attorney,
yeah.
Yeah. So that,
He
he
would
was the
know.
one that brought me, he was like, going, yeah, this is a problem.
Yep.
And so it's like, okay.
Perfect.
And so I just dug a little bit deeper and I found the second one. I was like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't belong there either.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much stopped right there because it's like, okay, here's two, let's just stop and get these cleaned up and then we'll start chewing further down the road.
I have complete faith in Adam and what he does.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, I backed these two up. I sent them both to our city attorney and he was like, going, yeah, and he gave his reasons and this is the result.
Okay, yeah, I think it's clearly
Okay.
just probably an oversight in
Yep.
yesteryears, and so,
Yeah.
Cleaning it up,
It was 100%
Cleaning things up?
relevant probably back when it got approved. I mean, it
Okay.
got voted into ordinances. It's just time to back it back out.
okay.
So,
In 514, ordinance 514, the new ordinance is strictly repealing those.
yeah,
that's
it's
it.
not adding anything, it's not replacing
Yeah.
anything, it's just saying.
Perfect.
let's pull those.
Perfect.
So,
Okay, yeah.
okay.
I make a motion to pass this, or accept this as presented. Ordinance 514, repealing 179 and 181.
second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
No, I'm good. I think we got that backwards where we had it.
We beat the dead horse.
All in favor?
Aye.
And-
Aye.
And the negative, thank you. Okay, 300. Okay. The other one, for the record, this version has not been presented to Avista.
Okay.
Probably should have went there first.
I started to go there, but, okay, so the backstory on this. 10 years ago, the city entered into a franchise agreement just for the electrical work for 10 years. So it expired, I think, in February, and now we're on a year-to-year basis after that.
Every community does the same thing.
Okay.
They have to have one in place.
So, what they want us to sign is actually a watered-down version of that 1994 franchise. Most of it's the same, but there are some paragraphs that have actually been eliminated in what they presented to me.
In their favor or our favor?
In my opinion, in their favor. For example, the current one has a whole section about the insurance that they have to carry, and in the new one they presented, it was completely omitted. It doesn't address what I think are some of the very, very real current issues that we have with right-of-ways and electrical grids and what have you. So in presenting this to our city attorney, he said, we probably would do better if we looked at Spokane Valley's franchise agreement with Avista and
Plagiarize it?
adopt it, correct it, adjust it for the city of Harrington. For example, Spokane Valley is part of some organization that dictates, or it's a code or a standard on how utility lines go underground, and they're part of a program that flat out pays for it. Well, that's not in this. So anyway, I took theirs, I went through it line by line and tweaked it for ours, and then adjusted a couple of areas that I felt were important, like insurance. My biggest fear in the next 25, and they want a 25-year franchise, and I don't have a problem with that.
That's normal.
Unless it's in writing, there's nothing in here that says who's gonna pay for these utility lines if the state legislator dictates that they're gonna go underground because they're tired of having airborne
Fires, so,
lines
yeah.
fall down and start fires. It could happen, it may not happen, but if it does, who's gonna pay for it? So this does address that we're not paying for it. They're gonna pay for it.
I understand all that and I did read it, but if Avista hasn't approved it, I'm not gonna approve it. This needs to go to Avista, to their attorneys, and they need to go through because once they approve it, then it can come to council, and we can then say, we can either counter it or say, okay, they've agreed to all of the parameters that you've put down.
The one piece was I did present to them that I'm being told that the Spokane Valley one is much more appropriate. And they were like, going, yeah, we don't like that idea. We want you to sign the one that we already gave you. And it's miles apart. So this, in a sense, is a counter.
Okay.
It still hasn't been a counter though if it hasn't gone to them and they haven't seen it. Because you just said that it hasn't gone to them yet.
I will present it to them
Okay.
as is unapproved, and I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But I was hoping that we could present to them that this is what the council wants to do.
Mr. Mayor, did our attorney look at this actual one here?
No,
Okay.
no.
There's only one thing, if you entertain me a minute or two here. I read through it. It does some ambiguities to it, but it's Public Works Director. Show me the Public Works Director. I mean, that should probably be the mayor at this point.
I think it said or designate. I read through that. If there
So I
was
mean
a
Harrington
number-
Public Works Director or his or her designee. So, I mean, that leaves, we don't have a Public Works, title, Director, so.
Sure.
So you, this is just little things, but then city manager, You know, there's just a few words and few terms in here that I wouldn't release the mayor's power to somebody else in a broad sense off the bat. And I see it addresses the rights. One thing, it keeps talking about facilities, existing facilities. I mean, to me, when I hear facilities, I'm thinking, oh, they're building a building, or they're, you know, it's a structure. Are they apparatuses like towers or substations? I mean, what are they referring? Do you have any idea what they're referring to? Facilities, because it's
Yeah,
Grante's facilities, and we don't really.
My interpretation of it is their facility is their power lines, their power poles, their what have you. It's very similar to our water. It's not our water mains, it's our water system.
Right. Right, and it's just, may not be a big thing now, but if, I'm kind of against 25 years, because a lot of stuff is changing on a daily basis. So chances are we won't be around, but I mean, good chance, obviously. But setting up for failure or pigeonholing the future government under something, which, you know, I don't see a problem with 10. There's something behind it that they want more. This is a Vista wanted 25, correct? They absolutely refused 10 years, or you're finding out. I personally would be more comfortable with less time, more than a year, more than 5, 10 years I think is ample. But when they're talking about guaranteeing, this is my point I'm trying to make, when they talk about facilities, I think a lot of people would view that, interpret that to mean a building or whatever, and it's in the city that they could just come carte blanche, put up a building and do whatever, good, bad, or indifferent.
But that's not what this is. This is just for them to construct and maintain the poles that they already have. Elevated and underground wires, cables, and apparatuses from the transmission, control, and distribution of electricity within the public right-of-ways of city. This is just a right-of-way franchise, literally. They can't come in and put up a building. This is just extending them the right to come into our little community and repair their poles, repair the wires, and that. It's literally pretty straightforward.
Like,
And 25 years is actually very, very common for a franchise agreement. I do know that.
Yeah, and I respect that, I really do.
No, I know.
But under section 6, it says grantees, which is them, facilities shall be constructed and maintained in such a manner not to interfere with any public use or with any wires, conduits, or other facilities. That to me is more, that's more broad, that's more, and there's others here, I got them highlighted, that refers to some of that. If they deem necessary, they can go ahead and put, that's why, they can put whatever they want in there. That's why I'm saying facilities, why not apparatus, or spell it out, lines, or whatever else, be more specific. It's kind of broad-based, and who knows by then, I mean, I don't know. So I do see, I failed to read, I didn't get all the way through the existing one, or the one that expired that was done in 2014. But a lot of stuff, yes, the language is there, but that's my concerns. Is the word of facilities and what they're really, there's no definitions here.
Yeah, there is.
Or there is?
Yep, it's on page 2.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot. Let's go back to where. It was late when I read it. I apologize, folks. But it's not limited to poles, towers, overhead, underground, cable conduits. And other equipment, appliances.
Excuse me, sorry.
In the grand scheme of things, they probably could, but in Harrington, would it happen? Probably not. Anyway, that was my 2 cents on that, and I agree with Council Member meets, that maybe we fire it their way and see what they bite off on.
Okay.
I don't know of any.
Just see what changes they're gonna, it's gonna take them some time to get back to us, obviously, so I just feel that if there's not some agreement before it's brought to council, this is a moot point.
Okay. Well, if nothing else, it's brought it to the top of the conversation.
Absolutely.
Because I've been putting her off on getting this done because we've had a few other irons in the fire.
Yeah.
So
No fault of anybody's, I just,
Do-
if we all sign off on it and it's signed today and they don't accept it, then we have to come back and do it all over again.
sure.
When we were talking, when you talked with the city attorney, did he have any other inputs or insight to it,
His
other than Liberty Lake? Sorry.
Oh, no,
Or
it's just
Valley.
or Spokane Valley. That's just what he simply said. This would be, he said this would be better, the modification of this would be better suited for you.
Okay.
Is about where he put it. I
So-
got the impression that he was telling me, without saying it specifically, it's the more comprehensive one that covers more topics and more issues.
Not-
So,
And you
Because Harrington is not Spokane Valley, for one. And if he's on this call, I would love to hear from him and find out an explanation for why he feels that Spokane Valley even compares to what our little rural community needs.
one block has more population.
But we can discuss that another day.
I think in
But
the
it's
way
true.
yeah, we don't have the volume, we don't have the number of people. The way I viewed it and the way I read this is that there's potentially some of the same overall issues. Like
Right.
who's gonna pay for what? Who has the authority to do what? That doesn't matter whether it's Seattle or here, it's the same thing.
Right.
I liked it when we had a city attorney that actually was from a small town community, that lived in our small town communities, that actually felt and understood what our little rural communities needed and wanted,
Sure.
for the record.
So I guess any other, asking my fellow council members, any other input? Or is there, I would like to see 10, but then I hear 25, just for the simple fact that I don't like entering, with this much in there, I don't like entering into something that long.
Yeah.
I just know that
Yeah.
they normally are 25. That's just kind of it's honestly, I don't want to say standard, but it really is a standard. Franchise agreements are usually 25 years. Just from doing the grants that I have done.
Okay. Well, I will send that off to Avista and wait for the response. We had a couple of additions. Business proposition.
Okay. The other day I had one of the guys that he works up at Highline Grain Growers there, and I was asked to present this to the council. Him, Tyler Snow, and Garrett. I apologize, I don't know what was the last name, but I forgot it. But anyways, they proposed that the city, or they would do it. Why isn't there vending machines up there at the park next to the restrooms or in that vicinity? And also the town square. They would like. I told him I'll check into that, but he says, well, the nutshell is Tyler and Garrett would like to put in vending machines in those locations. Because I told him I don't know, the city doesn't, I didn't know the legalities of the city actually doing it, but I don't know, the flip side of that. I don't know what it is for, that's why I'm here presenting it to the council. Do we even allow such a thing, or does it sound good to people? They, he mentioned that they would take care of them, it's totally their responsibilities, and offered to pay the city a rental fee or a percentage of the profits.
So,
I think that they need to come to a council meeting and present their idea, their business proposal to the city council and go from there.
I would concur, but I think first, we probably need to research our codes,
If it's even allowed.
if it's allowed. And like we said, maybe it wasn't allowed, I mean, if it wasn't allowed, you know, when we find that ordinance was done in 1952, then maybe that's another conversation that things
We
need to
could
be
repeal
looked at.
another ordinance and,
Right. Well, I mainly just bring
I
it to
ju-
the table because I was asked to, and I understand councilman meets council member, sorry.
okay.
That is my concern as well.
Yeah,
But even if we wanted to entertain, or could we entertain such a thing?
I'm sure we always
If it's even
could
possible.
within the perimeters. There's always that opportunity, I feel, for
Mm-hmm.
somebody to be bettering themselves in a business adventure, whatnot, as long as they had a business model, you know, and they had, and they
100
approached
years
council.
ago, you'd go to jail for selling alcohol. So
So-
things change.
Yep.
Yeah, and it won't cost us 10 grand to buy in.
I wasn't gonna go there, but
No, but you know, that's,
No.
if,
they're showing
Yeah,
initiative and they're
yes.
trying to do
And-
something good, so, you
So
know,
can we do this? I will check the codes and see if there's anything that pops out that says, you know, that there's an issue or one way, or maybe it's already outlined. I know we have a vendor peddler's permit.
right?
but that's
So-
different. The peddler's
I
permit
know,
is, yeah,
I know,
but,
but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
But
there's
it-
been some things put in there about
Right.
commerce, so.
But being on city property, and that's the part that needs, be checked. If we
Right.
allow,
So
An
I can get
enterprise to
you-
do that.
I can let you know what I come up with on that, and then you could approach them.
okay?
But I
Or-
agree, I think, you
Yeah,
know,
have-
get put on the agenda and make a presentation
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
tell you guys what theirs on.
I think it's great that they got ideas, that they're trying to do something and just,
I know, I don't know if it's currently, but just the rest stops, the DOT, Washington Department of Transportation, they're all the rest stops, you know, those are, I believe, well, I knew of it 25 years ago that you had to buy, you leased that spot, or there was something with it, but those aren't owned by the state for the most part at that time. It was whomever was in that, you know, vending machines, they go there, set it up, but they had to get approval and permits and all that kind of stuff. Is that,
Well, I worked with companies that were doing stuff like that in schools
Mhm.
in the last 8 years, so. Okay.
I would just maybe note to them that it's not our responsibility to write their contract. So just so that they know when it comes to it, they're gonna be the ones that have to come with a contract that passes council.
right? Good point.
agreed.
Okay. Sensors with an S?
Yeah. So we talked. Forget which council meeting it was. I think it was the one right after the pump blew up after the car show. About putting sensors on our well equipment so that we do not get flat-footed again, like we did the other night about seeing that the tank is run dry. So pursuant to that effort and what we had talked about as a council then, I got a sensor coming. I just wanted to give an update it's going to be an electric monitor for the pump here. So that way we can tell if it's running. I'll be able to tie into it, and if it's not been running in a while, I can send an alert so that if it's in the middle of the night, we can know that something's gone wrong before we wake up in the morning, which again, was the situation when from what I understand anyways, that we didn't know ahead of time, we found out the next morning, right? Is that correct? Yeah. So that's something that I'd really like to,
There were comments probably as early as 5 a.m. on Facebook, but
yeah, I would really prefer to not be relying on our citizens telling us what the condition of their taps is. We should be hopefully competent enough to know the state of our own system would be my goal. So, in order to monitor the power usage on three-phase power, that's a little bit more expensive of a sensor. It's $350, but it should also tell us the total electrical usage, so we'll be able to validate our Avista bill. And also, it will do our power monitoring curve to know if it's starting to use a lot more draw. So, one thing that I think is important is with the old motor, we could hear when it was starting to vibrate or if it was smelling hot or whatever else, right? The current one is down in the hole underwater, so if something's starting to go wrong with it, we won't have as much opportunity to directly interact with it or hear anything or whatever. So if we know what its typical electrical curve is, we can monitor that over time, and if it starts using 10% more and 20% more and whatever, hopefully not the number of years, that we would be on council, but in decades, we could see that it's starting to rise and say, hey, that motor's burning out. It's still working, yeah, but it's using 20% more electricity. Maybe it's calcifying, maybe something's going wrong with it. We should start to look into that so that we're not, getting caught by emergencies. So anyways, I just wanted to give an update on that effort. I also bought some parts for pressure sensing personally. I'm putting them in my house. If that works the way I want, I will come with a proposal of what we can do to monitor pressure. Because the electrical usage is saying how much energy we're using to pull the water from the ground. The pressure will tell us things like how full is the tank. Because the fuller the tank is, the higher the water pressure is, the lower the tank is, the lower the water pressure is. So if we have a monitor on that, we can also have a good idea of where we are in terms of reserves, or how long until we're full, how long until we're empty. All that kind of stuff.
Does it count gallons at all, volume?
I'll be able to do that too.
Yeah.
That's separate than pressure, but those are the three things I'd like to do per well: is electricity, pressure, and usage. But I'm gonna test that out in my own house with my own money first, and once I know that system works, I'll come to the council with a proposal on the other portion of it. So.
With the well talk on the table, I do have an update. I'll attend the September 7th, I believe, meeting for PWB, and they'll be doing the award for the grant that I submitted. The agenda comes out 1 week prior.
okay,
So.
it's September 7th.
Mm-hmm.
What else did I see is happening that day? Is that in Ellensburg?
No, they usually do their stuff over on the west side.
Okay, there was a bunch of stuff going on this September 7th.
I will attend because I am the first contact for that grant award. So,
Sure.
anybody else who wants to be on there? Cross your fingers.
And that's for how much money in total?
1.202
Okay.
Okay.
million.
Which I bet today has been an epically incredible day of information, and it's going to tie into that. Anything else before I launch into? Oh wait, we have other things to do, like
Approve the new
approve
claims.
minutes and all that stuff. I'm forgetting the sequence thing. We changed it up. Okay.
It's all good.
Minutes from July 10th.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. We have to observe the check register. This has already been approved.
I have a question. Why did Mr. Sackett have to fork out money for the emergency water main repair initially?
Yes,
We had to have the
Easement
easement.
filing, it says.
Yes, so the easements were all written up and done. He took them to the county and had them filed himself
Okay,
and got approved. And he had actually submitted those receipts some time ago, but they had gotten lost or whatever.
Okay.
So
I just
that's
think.
just
we should-
reimbursing him
we-
for,
Next time, or if it happens in the future, we should not put that burden on our residents
no,
ever.
no. And I'm glad he took the initiative to do that because.
No, that's
it-
great,
it-
but they're in a position they can do that, but some people would not be able to, you know what I
Correct.
mean?
Yeah,
So, I wouldn't want it to be a standard that we
yeah, that's
have them do
Hardly.
that.
hardly a standard.
That was my only
Okay.
question.
Okay.
I just got one quickie.
Yes.
How is MKB? And it's a sore subject, but I mean,
Not-
granted, there was nothing to
No,
mow
there's-
really, but
they weren't happy. I explained our position. He indicated that there were a number of freebies that he gives the city at the end of the season. And he assured me that he would not be giving us any free services at the end of the season. And I said we were okay with that. I was okay with that. So, he's not happy, but it goes on. And he's like, well, I'm coming up there and mowing even if you're not watering and it's not growing. And I said, I understand completely. That's, you're here and you're trying to do the job, and if it didn't grow, it didn't grow. That's really not your problem. That's ours. I get that. So,
at least they're running the equipment over it and,
Clean it up, whatever they can.
yeah.
So
In
they're
other
still
words, just
doing
show
their
up
job.
and not do nothing, you know.
yeah, I haven't
It's-
heard one way, and I'm sorry, when they're here, I'm not able to go up and
I did
oversee
see
what they
somebody at the
want.
park on my way to work. Went to the restaurant this morning. They were
Mhm.
mowing.
They were up there.
They were
Okay.
up the park, so.
Have we received any proposals?
Have not.
Hmm.
Which I know, I'm alarmed at.
And off the top of our head, that contract is good with them for how much longer? Another,
3 years?
2 or 3. I think it was a 4-year contract
Yeah.
signed last year, so we're in the middle of year 2.
Mm-hmm.
all right. And everything's going good with sunshine, other garbage aspect, no
We're paying our
complaints?
bill, I'm assuming everyone else is, and I haven't heard anything from anybody.
When we have complaints, we just call them.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah. We've had some people reach out to us and we've just redirected
Do you wanna see
them.
this?
Yeah.
They did have a glitch. Apparently they had a new driver in town and they missed some
Yeah, they
places.
missed us.
But
It's
But-
fine.
you
It
call them
happens.
and, you know, let them deal with it.
Nobody's, you know, people make mistakes, and when there's a new driver in a community, they don't know all the ins and outs. We
Which
get
alley
that.
to drive down and which
Yeah.
not. Yeah, exactly.
But
So,
Okay.
okay. New claims? Which is in your hand.
Come on.
I already looked at them.
Move to approve.
Move to second.
Any discussion? Okay, we've got a first and a second to approve the claims. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approved. Thank you.
Can I borrow your pen?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
I will try to be brief with comments of what's happened the last couple of weeks, but it's been a lot. One thing I want to address delicately, but I just want to remind people, and I know this audience is not really who I'm talking to, but in general, that etiquette in businesses and in City Hall
should exist, and using foul language and aggressive and abusive behaviors really is not going to be tolerated. And there's been some circumstances, admittedly, it's been hot because of some of the water enforcements that's been going on, but regardless, I just want to reinforce that our council and public works people are just community members like everyone else, and they demand respect. And I'll just leave that part at that.
So we've had residents berating our
Yes.
city staff?
Yes. In City Hall. So, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Try to take this from the news nobody wants to hear, but it's not unexpected.
give a speech, I
Alice
guess.
Street, we have developed a leak. They will be looking into it tomorrow. That is another potential Willis Street brewing. So, front of Sherry McClellan's house, that's been repaired a number of times. So,
What was?
between third, Alice.
Alice, okay.
So between second and third. So just a heads up on that. I don't know where that's headed. We'll know tomorrow when they start. They're getting the locates done tomorrow.
That's
so
a target area that's had some problems.
it's
in
had
the past,
problems.
so-
So I'm just letting you guys, giving you the heads up.
How much water do we think we're losing?
Not much actually. Although with evaporation it could be more, but
Well, it's not
it's
the river that
not-
was
it's
running
not the
from
river
Willis.
that's running
Okay.
out, no. So
Yet.
Yeah.
Ken, our public works employee, is back full-time, yay. We had a visit today, I'm sorry Gavin wasn't able to make it, but Gavin had finally connected with this person from Ferguson Waterworks. Yeah, not fireworks. I wasn't able to take him around, but he was able to go around with our public works employee to see our different systems and meters, and the conversation started. So he's asking for some specs, if you will, so we'll get those over to him. Hopefully we'll have some real alternate meter possibilities presented soon, which is timely because there's a US grant for water improvements and meters fits right into it.
Right,
That's
okay.
due September 2nd. So
Do we have to do anything prerequisites to applying for that, or just get on the
I'm
list?
trying to see what
Okay.
kind of number we're looking at. Their minimum, their bottom floor is 25,000, and it goes up to 10 million. So but it's a U.S. government grant, so I don't know all the parameters. I'm just saying that as soon as we can get some numbers, I can start delving into that. So that's a thing. So, tying into that grant, Public Works Board grant is to put in another well.
Well, number one.
Well, number one. Well, the recent little issue that we had over the weekend became clear that well number one, as it sits right now, is non-producing. Which means, and we were looking at the e-tapes and as much as we possibly can, all those graphs that I've sent out to everybody. We don't know what well number one has ever done during the summer, except when we look at the graphs, it just drops down as low as we can test it, and then it goes out of sight until it comes back in the fall. And I actually had a conversation with Bunny today, and I brought up the question, in her recollection, did we ever even try to use well number one during the summer? And she said she couldn't remember that we'd ever even given it a try. So I'm presenting that our backup really may not have been a backup for a long time. So that being in mind, we also found out that the Department of Health expects a 100-foot clean zone around any new well.
Any new well? you
Any
said?
new well. And they said that it is unlikely that they would approve a well to go anywhere near an existing one, because over the years, there's normally a lot of encroachment on that space, and so they just don't do it. So we're going to be aggressively looking for another location to put
that well that we're getting the funding for. In addition to
If
that,
we get the money.
if we get the money. Regardless, with that information, we found out that there is a pretty, it starts at 30,000, it can go up to 50,000, but it is another grant that we can get our hands on. There's very little reporting requirements, there's very little anything, there's no money out of Harrington, but it's to hire a geohydrologist, or a hydraulic engineer, geohydrologist.
Geotech or
Some guy that finds water under the ground. And so would be getting money to basically pay for that, so we can identify where a spot in this area we can put another well in,
and 100-foot buffer.
and a 100-foot buffer. So, I think we found it.
Is anything mentioned in that buffer, like our well down there for the creek?
I
Any-
didn't get into the weeds on what a clear area, or a clean area was, but I had a hard time having our shop right there next to that well that was proposed is probably not gonna happen. So, I don't know if the creek would make a difference, but, you know, between our shop and Harrington Truck and Auto, those two could. So.
The McGregor building across the street.
And the McGregor building for that matter. So, the city owns a piece of property close to your place on Coal Creek, just north of the football field at the school.
That's the.
Wetlands.
Wetlands. That's, yeah.
So, that's gonna be one of the spots that the city already owns that we can explore.
I don't think that that can go there. That is a runoff area.
Well, the only other,
So
We're just, yeah.
I'm just saying,
It's a
that's
piece of
Ecology
land.
Park.
Yeah.
I don't think a well could go in Ecology Park. That's literally for runoff.
up
And-
there, yes, you're right. Sorry, off of Adams Street,
Off Coal Creek. Oh.
the city owns that gravel pit area.
Yeah. Anyway, that's gonna be that's the big hunt, is where can we put a second well in the city to replace well number one.
Yeah.
Well, I know Harrington's always had a reputation for really sweet taste in water, or good water, and hate to lose that, I don't know, it's hit and miss.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's the same aquifer. I'm pretty sure that we and the golf course are all using the same underground body of water. Which, the way the water, when we were on water restrictions and we were using well one, we were measuring, the last measurement before we shut that down and switched, we still had, in our little measuring chamber, if you will, we still had 21 inches of water. In a week, that disappeared,
If,
because that's dry.
if the I'm reading the sign as you're talking, is the golf course, that's water rights. So I can't see the city and the golf course being on the same water. If they have water rights, we would have to have permission to use their water. So I don't,
I'm just saying 100, 200 feet down,
Well,
it's
probably-
just a big,
But there's multiple veins everywhere.
Right.
right.
But you're talking about the main
I
pool.
don't know.
Yeah,
I'm purely speculating,
Yeah.
purely speculating.
I know there's different veins.
I know that we went from 21 inches and a week later, that water was gone out of that system to the point where we can't measure it anymore.
What was happening in that week?
We were running this one.
Well, but that's also very common with the E-tapes, historically.
Yeah.
I mean, we come into that 3-week period and all of a sudden it just,
Yeah.
and that's every year going past.
Yeah, so it may be totally not, we just,
We
we're
didn't-
running
yeah.
without data, so it's all a speculation. I do know this is putting out, we're pulling 500 gallons per minute out of the new pump. Whereas
number
the last
three.
one, Yeah, the last one that we were using there, same gauge, was about 230 gallons per minute at the gauge. I can also tell you, because we're watching how much water's coming out of there pretty religiously, like daily, if not multiple times a day. In that week, the city overall consumed 3.2 million gallons.
And is there any way to check that historically on any data? I mean, compared to 5 years, 10 years ago.
I'd have to find those records. I do know is that I'm going through and I'm finding little pearls of information, where there's a reading on a well on this date. I've got a spreadsheet that I'm plugging in all these historical numbers when I can get my hands on them. So hopefully we'll be able to start to see that model, but
And the county over there, the health department or whatever, not that guy, the other guy, USDA,
Conservation.
Thank you, Dean White.
Dean White.
Yeah. Does he have any historical?
he's the one that's been doing those e-tapes.
Okay.
So we
But
have a lot
that's
of
not
that data.
usage, right? That's just
the
up
well,
and down.
That's just the water table.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
And that's part of when we have that the sensors going forward, we'll be able to compare and say, because this is the nice thing, when I had some people talk to us about water restrictions and stuff, and I said, you know, we don't even know, like on a 90-degree day, how much water do we typically use in a day? We don't know, right? We can kind of postulate and say, well, we think that we have, if it's a full tank, which we don't even never know if it's a full tank. You know, so it's like just about
That's
any.
one of the first sensors we need to do.
Water
is get
level.
is get a level sensor
Right.
so we can see where that is at.
Just about every measurement you want to start penciling in on the
The
napkin.
float that's supposed to be going up
We
and
don't.
down on the side
Yeah.
doesn't move.
You can't talk anybody to climb up there and tap the tank, huh? Yeah, well,
For
that
volunteering data.
that would be prudent that we do that.
Well, and that's so this pressure. Once I get this pressure sensing stuff, which the pressure sensor stuff is all a lot cheaper, which is why I just decided I'm going to buy the parts myself and put it in my own house for just curiosity's sake. But we can start using that in multiple places, including at the base of the water tower. And the thing is, the more feet you go up in the air, the higher that pressure is going to be, right? So then that pressure sensor is going to give us a readout of however many PSI, just like a dial gauge, right? And when the tank is full, it'll read something. And when the tank is empty, it'll read something. And then we'll find where our boundaries are. And then we'll know, based upon where we are between the high and the low value, percentage full. And then we can just have that readout all the time. It could take a measurement every minute, and then we could know exactly where we're at.
Well, that 3 million, over 3 million gallons, was that, again, was that people trying to play catch up?
It was during that week.
Yeah,
During that
okay.
week. I can tell you,
So-
just in the past 24 hours, because I read the numbers last night, and I read them this afternoon. In the last 24 hours, we've used 543,000 gallons.
Gallons, not a liter.
Half
The
a
gallons.
Over 500,000 gallons in one day.
That's
So
what
that's leaks and usage, probably, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and
Would
we've
be
got
everything.
one
I mean-
small leak, but there's nothing that's emerged. I mean, unless it's completely underground and we're
Underground,
not
yeah.
seeing it.
Right.
And the creek down here, what we had.
It's dry.
So,
Yeah, because when we went online and I saw that we were typically pumping out around 94 to 95 pounds of pressure with the old pump here. When I went in there and got that meat, we were at 110. So this is putting out not only the volume but the pressure. So yeah, I've had the guys going over across the street and looking at that to make sure that it's not popped a seam and leaking too.
has that increased well, I guess it probably wouldn't. The pressure on the south hill or the hill up there, any difference?
No, I think the bulk of that's coming out of it.
Tank.
This side of the city is being, directly fed that extra pressure, but up there, I think it's going all into the tank first and then distributing.
Mhm. City down here had extremely good pressure. Fire hydrants, houses, everything.
It's not at the top of the list, but we are talking about a plan to put in a second reservoir.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask, thank you.
It was discussed, can we build it higher to put more pressure? And the comment was, well, if we did that, then we're basically gonna fill up our original reservoir and it will start leaking because just levels. So that's something we'll have, wherever that new tank goes, it'll have to be in elevation, the same elevation, so we don't create an inequality in how they're being filled. Yay.
Yeah, and I suppose there's a buffer zone on that too. I
Um,
know they talked about it, I don't know how big.
Yeah, that I don't know, but that's gonna have to go up high, so that's not gonna go down on Coal Creek Road. Not unless we wanna have one, 400 feet on stilts.
I would sell my house.
Yeah.
I'll just say it right now.
Would blow it over onto your house, so. Anyway, that, I just wanted to, and keep in your mind, under that current state, with that kind of volume that we're using, and
This was-
I don't see us, if somebody came to us and said, hey, we want to put in a 100-unit housing development, adjacent to your town and use your city water, I mean, the answer's got to be no.
We don't have the
We don't.
infrastructure.
The infrastructure.
Until
Yeah.
we get it up to par.
We'll put in new pipes, yeah, we don't have the water to give you.
Right.
So,
Well, that's what's strange, the population has
really
gone
sad,
down over the
honestly.
years. And we don't have a swimming pool anymore, or currently. That I think, I used to know the gallons of that. We have one fertilizer plant versus 3 that we had before. So where's all that water going? I realized we had to play catch up on some of it.
I knock on wood, am hoping that it's as simple as that. So we might watch, since we brought it back online, and we'll take a look in another week after
Yeah.
people have just been going bonkers and see if it's backed off some.
Because it's not 107 degrees out.
Yeah, and people aren't trying to green up their lawns overnight. It was a lot of water usage at night, obviously.
Was there, I mean,
Well,
in your neighborhood, you see it a lot?
well, I see it in my neighborhood, but it's hard to judge that you're seeing somebody's little sprinkler running over here. Well, times that by the 30 other neighbors that are doing the same thing, adds up.
Right. No, I'd be kind of curious, what we're faced with.
Can't
Extreme
blame our
temper-
residents for wanting to use water.
Right, Extreme temperatures.
That's for
and then-
sure. They should expect some
Yeah.
infrastructure that can support,
Right.
what needs to happen, but I also get the conserve part.
Yeah.
Don't
Something's,
get me wrong.
I won't say something's wrong, but so 500,000 gallons in a 24-hour period, and we're pumping 480 gallons a minute when it's on. If you divide that out, that means that between your two measurements, it ran for 17.36 hours. But here's the thing, the old pump was only running at 240 gallons per minute. And I don't remember us ever having a problem supporting the summertime usage before. We're putting out twice the water and we're barely keeping up with it.
And we had.
Barely.
That tells me that there's underground leaks that have not come up. That's the only thing that I can come up with.
Yeah. But,
But
so as we start getting meters read now, and those measurements are starting to come in, we're gonna start being able to at least track actual consumption. So we'll see how that translates to gallons pumped versus,
that was my next question. When did Cade Clark start as the meter reader? And I thought it was a different lady. And it was never put in the paper again for people to apply, things like
yeah.
that. So
So Cade had approached us about doing it the last time when it was up for deal. Kaylee wasn't able to continue, so we needed somebody, and Cade said he was still willing to do it, and so he started last month, and it's taken a lot. It's a lot of work to walk through the city and dig some of those things out and try to find them way down deep. So he got that done, and I believe he just got this month done. So,
Yeah, he approached me yesterday and asked where mine was, so,
yeah, because I had actually met Chris when I drove up to get it last time. So I got yours last time.
the big picture is, as a municipality, we need to put something in the paper and post the position. I mean, that is, I'm not trying to be,
I know, it's a part-time position, it's a part-time temporary position, and.
I get that.
So we're not gonna read them in the wintertime, right? That's what we're saying.
They never have been in the
Yeah,
past.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm trying.
I think they go through what, October?
Yeah, it's a fine line between, and I'll find out how serious Department of Health is, but my understanding is they're expecting them to be run full year, or read full year. It's up to us whether we charge for them, but they're expecting, because they want to see that consumption
Usage, yeah.
compared to pumpage, So I'm trying to find out what the actual rules are for that, because a lot of that is just, well, this is the way it's done.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
gonna read
I
it
get it.
myself.
Yeah.
It'd be beneficial for us to know the gallons going out in comparison, instead of feeding the creek all winter long and
And
yeah,
then
for
some-
pump.
Have Public Works gone around and done a scout for anything obvious leaks wise?
Yeah, and both Kaylee and Cade have both been very good about writing that this one's broken.
No.
This one's
I'm
leaking.
talking about. Sorry, I guess I'm kind of changing back a little bit, but to this egregious amount of water usage over the last 24-hour period.
They're looking all over. I mean, they're looking through the city with critical. They're cruising the city trying to see anything. Like I said, I already had. They had when I said, "Are we checking across the street to make sure that's being done?" And they said, "Yeah, they were already there.
And the creek is dry.
The creek is dry."
You can't lose that much water. I don't know where that could go.
That's quite a bit, and I mean, it is measuring the correct units, I mean, gallons, liters, all that. I mean,
We're-
it is in
The
gallons.
2
not
meters
liters.
are times by 1,000 and 100. We
They're
didn't.
by hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it has happened in oversight.
Well, and 500,000 or 500,000 gallons in the last 24 hours is in line with that 3.2 in a week.
Well, people are still catching up.
Yeah.
I mean, our city, I mean, I see them, cemetery and stuff like that. They're running up there watering, so.
Yeah, and I told them this morning they're gonna reset the timers and kind of pull that back a little bit. They were running them, I think, 30 minutes for the areas that were in shade and 45 minutes in the open, the different zones. And I told them to pull that back to a shorter time period.
Oh, and I had the thought that we might want to explore what is the state of the controller at the cemetery. Because there are some even very basic smart controllers that will help, that will put more water on when it's hot, less water. Because I'm assuming the controllers that are probably on now, they're set probably to take care of the hottest days of summer, and the rest of the time they're running heavy. Right? Because on a 70-degree day, they get X amount of water, and on a 90-degree, they get X amount of water. And at the cemetery, the difference between those two is hundreds of thousands of gallons in a week, at least. It's just something that if we start to get a little bit more serious about water consumption, that kind of stuff could help.
And timing of the day.
Yeah,
They're doing it
night.
in the evening and into the morning. I don't think they've got it on during the middle of the day.
There's a couple I saw early. Well,
I'll find out the when and
But-
what kind of time.
to be beneficial for the grass.
I guess I'm just realizing how close to the edge we were for a long period of time, and that if there, let's say hypothetically, there are no big leaks right now, and we're running close to full out on the new well just for people catching up, then that means you go back 2 years and we're on the old well and everybody thinks everything is fine, right? We are everyone trying to catch up from a heat wave away from being dry on the summertime well. And we had no winter backup historically because no one ever tried it, and it probably was dry. So I guess I'm just acclimating not so much to what has changed lately, because maybe not much has changed at all. I'm acclimating to the fact that we were a lot closer to a problem than I ever thought we were.
Well, I know for the last over 50 years that in the summertime, this is the one that was running
Yeah.
and pretty much constant throughout the day.
It's probably been since the 90s when that well was done. The well number 3 here. The 90s is probably the last time that thing ran in the summer.
Anyway, I'm glad we're having the conversation now.
We were very blessed that this didn't happen any later in the year than it did.
So did well number 1, did it suck air? Or did it shut off?
Yeah,
I mean, it was
had to
pumping.
be- It had to be sucking air. I'm having this vision of it running and creating a vortex that goes down and kind of then sucks in air and until it cavitates and it doesn't suck anything and then it stops pumping and then it gradually builds up and starts pumping water again. But it's basically at the edge. Now, it's moving a lot of water, so, I mean, you could be talking about 20 feet of water above the actual pump bowls and getting that kind of reaction.
And again, you haven't run across any historical data measuring the well's output. I know we got different motors, but I mean, the actual well, what it'll sustain. And if so, after that, the recovery length of time.
Yeah. All, David will be
But I mean,
straight up,
if
I've been
You're swamped.
focused on other things, but I do know there are some old water system plans that are probably buried in boxes back here.
I'm not suggesting you go look for them. I just wonder if you run across that. You probably would have shared that anyways if you would have. But I know somewhere there should be that information historically, years and years ago. Well, that's interesting. Well, kind of curious. By the next meeting, we'll see what the weather does and everything. We'll see what it, in a 24-hour period, what it is.
Yeah.
And that'll give us some more better hold on stuff. Because that's just hard to believe that this thing is pumping out that kind of volume and the old one didn't. It just, but logic would tell you that the old one would have been, wouldn't have kept up. Without.
And maybe there's a lot of things. I mean, people have underground irrigation systems and timers and what have you.
Mhm.
You know, when I was growing up, it was a
Rainbird.
sprinkler, and we ran through it, and
Yeah.
the grass died. We didn't care. A lot of speculation, but there is an issue today. We're just trying to stay out of the trouble zone.
Well, we're on the plus side, but now we have to look for two sites, a water tower and a well.
Yeah, well, like I said, the water tower, because he kind of lined out this is the priority, the way they see it. And it's not approved yet, but their preliminary deal is a well, and then it is,
Reservoir.
actually, that's the last thing on the list.
Oh, really?
Because we've got a
Okay.
reservoir. They actually want to spend the money to repair the reservoir, because it's cheaper to bring that one up to speed than it is
Okay.
to take it down and build a new one. But $200,000 makes that all code current and all the rest of it. No, it's the water lines,
Yeah, our infrastructure.
our infrastructure.
Yeah, I would agree
After
with
the well,
that.
that's the second one.
One thing that would be nice if we were to be able to use the Coal Creek spot, which, yeah, I mean, it being in that creek bed and stuff, but getting a 6-inch line over there and the potential for a fire hydrant up on that side, because there are no fire hydrants on that side of the railroad tracks up north?
They would already have to, well, they'd have to put in new pipe, and if they're gonna put in new pipe, they're not gonna call for a 6-inch line like it is right now.
Well, sure, six
Because
six or better. But the point is to increase fire coverage potential on that north end of
Yeah.
town. There would be really nice.
Yeah, and we've already got water lines that
Coal
are
Creek,
galvanized that
Okay,
should be
I got it.
replaced.
right.
So,
I thought there is a hydrant up there.
No, there are no hydrants north of the corner of the football field and tennis courts. There are on this side of the railroad tracks, but on that side of the railroad tracks,
We
it's
got
the
nothing.
football field and 2-inch lines beyond that. Which the fire district has always made it plain to me that they feel like they have plenty of tanker capacity, and that no one seems to believe that's a problem. And I'm not suggesting it is. I can't. I don't have
But
enough knowledge to.
redundancy
But
would be really
it's just
nice.
yeah. If you look at where all the maps are, or the map of where all the fire hydrants are in the town, that's the one corner of the populated town of Harrington that is conspicuously separated. Everything else is within a couple blocks, as it should be. I would just hate for it to ever impact like insurance or anything else, that if it ever became a thing that's like, well, your house is like half a mile away from a fire hydrant because we don't count the one that's right across the railroad tracks because you can't run a fire hose across the railroad tracks. That,
Once you
you know,
the idea with that
ends
might be to
abruptly.
run one underneath that culvert, just let
Yeah.
it sit there. Just have it available if you ever had to use it.
No. Well, we learned a technique with
And all that will be in the plan, or we're coming up with, as far as looping it, and we talked about that.
that would be
and-
great.
Thank you. That's number 3.
Okay,
So it was a new well, infrastructure, a second pipe under the track
yeah.
is number 3. And they're talking about using that Adams Street crossing,
Right, right.
that general area, to put another water line under the tracks. So,
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. Were you, I don't wanna beat things up a little bit, but any spraying? What was the deal with the weeds? Do we have any write-ups from the county or anything?
no, I've got the guys going around mowing them down. They're asking for more concentrated weed killer where it's appropriate. I talked to, I think he was seeing, I talked to Sid Paganelli, and he thought at this point, as far as the cemetery and the park were concerned, that until we start growing it and let it grow and take root again, if anything that we put down is just gonna burn it. So just hold off, and if we have to do anything, do spot stuff in other places. So instead of putting down chemical, I'm just having them just whack the crap out of it.
Well, I mainly bring attention to, by the tennis courts, the school, the north end of the football field. Well,
On the
Yeah.
Coal Creek side?
Yes.
All the, yeah.
yeah, the kosher.
It's pretty bad.
Nobody's, I think we had a problem. We don't know who was responsible. I think we were gonna reach out, or somebody was gonna.
Yeah, and I've not connected with the school district, but yeah, we need to figure out who is actually responsible between their fence and the roadside. And then that property that we're talking about, but
I would-
are we supposed to whack that down or not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they've gotten all they've got a bunch of new equipment for the brush hog, and,
We just bought one too.
okay. Well,
Because we're gonna start doing the side, the road in front, even through Ecology Park, because it's just overgrowing the road, so at
Okay.
this point.
So, I'll write up something and have them, I'll come in the morning and let some look. Put
We
that
just
on their
want a
list.
better barrier up to our fence too,
Oh,
with,
yeah.
do
with
any,
fire season and things like that, so.
do either of the public works employees have a license to spray?
No, that was something that was gonna happen, and then Ken got distracted, so.
Yeah,
So at this point, it's just, a lot of it is just whack it down. I know that they're going. up-
Mechanical means.
Mechanical means. They're gonna go up with the backhoe to the
They're gonna get
wastewater
serious with
treatment
it.
park. And, well, the wastewater treatment area is getting overgrown, so they're just gonna plow that.
Good catch, Jim.
So
Okay.
Reflexes like a cat.
Yeah. So if Ken's back full-time, does that mean that we're gonna get back on that track of
Thanks.
having that capability in-house? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be next year when it becomes an issue, but yeah, that's my goal.
I just wanna make sure we're tracking to that.
Yeah.
Cool, cool.
Okay, we don't have any public comments. Anything else to say?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was, yeah, that thing's over here and I had.
You just caught your toe on it.
It is.